come on. Welcome back to One Punch Man Anime Review, episode number 5. No, 6. Yep, episode 6. This one I'm reviewing technically this is the 4th episode of season 2, but it's the 16th episode of the series so far, overall, and this is the episode goes Metal Bat. This one, I had sort of a dispute people over on the One Punch Man Wiki site. Now, this particular episode adapted page 5 of chapter 41, which was not adapted from 2 episodes back. This is basically this episode. Page 1351, yeah. I actually looked up and I actually checked these out from the library, these One Punch Man books, and it looks like that in the case of last week, in the case 51, they adapted pretty much almost the entire chapter except for one page. Yep, one page. And that was page 13. Get this, last 4 pages took up 1 minute screen time of the episode. And that was basically the post-credits scene before the preview of next week's episode. I managed to look it up. This episode, aside from adapting those 2 particular pages, it adapts the entirety of chapters 52-57. The events are sort of told in a very weird order. It's basically like how these other events like interspliced with each other, which is fine. Well, here's the thing what happens. There's a few different story threads to this whole episode. First, you have Genos, the character introduced roughly 2 episodes back, who put like half a dozen heroes in the hospital. Some of whom he nearly killed these people. And in this episode, he wakes up from his little nap in the garage, and we get a flashback to his child. This is actually from chapter 51, and see where apparently he cheers the monster, and he hates the hero for interrupting, the monster's rampage. And then you see him at his home, basically scratching heroes, and then next time we see him, he's interacting with the kid he met up with last episode, reading Hero's Guide, and then gets interrupted by a monster attack which basically intersects with the story with featured Metal Bat. As the main character series, Saitama, he has just gone to the World Martial Arts Tournament, wear a wig, a very bad looking wig, posed as a fighter who was put in the hospital by Generals. The fighter himself does briefly appear in the episode for a couple brief scenes. He interacts with the cyclist hero on top of the hospital. Yeah, this is nothing unusual for Japanese anime at times. They love having a conversation on rooftops. This is mostly common with high school rooftops. Yeah, but a hospital rooftop? Not even American cartoons do this a lot of the time. Yeah, conversations happening on rooftops, fine. But never on top of a high school or a hospital. Only happens in Japanese anime. And after he enters the name under the term under a false name, and of course has a very weird fighting style, he interacts with a big beefy guy who tells a little bit about Gyros' time with Silverfang's dojo, and how much of a violent fighter he was, kicked out for basically killing a student, one of his fellow classmates. Yeah, so yeah, you get a little bit of that. Basically, you get a little bit of general in this episode. And after the guy leaves, after basically talking for Saitama for a little while, of course, he enters a false name anyways. And apparently, it's against the rules. People enter false names or even basically fake up their moves. So who knows how his basically his stuff's going to go on for the World Martial Arts Tournament, which is going to go on next week's episode. Which, by the way, not the first series to do a tournament. Yes, almost every major series I have watched has had tournaments. Series like Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT. Super has had at least 2 tournaments so far. Let's see, what else? I know Naruto's had tournaments. Let's see. One Piece? No, One Piece never had one in the canon per se, but in movies, yes. Let's see. My Hero Academia has had it. Yu Yu Hakusho has had it at least several times, of course, that series. Hunter x Hunter has had it. Trying to think if it was any other series I have watched that had tournaments. Well, you can kind of count High School DxD now because the ratings game is kind of like a tournament. It's basically a team thing. Yeah, gotta count that as well. So this is roughly I'd say the 10th series to have tournaments, but the second one to have the tournament called the World Martial Arts Tournament, Well, second franchise deuce because the original, of course, was Dragon Ball. Yep. In the case that one, you have fighters using energy attacks. This one looks like looks like basic martial arts moves, in a way. And after the guy leaves and he's talking to himself, of course he covers his face via a piece of paper of all things, very weak disguise. And yeah, he talks about basically of how he's getting to the fight, and that's all you see him in the episode. His time in the episode is very brief. Like, wow, for being the main character of the series, he does not get a lot of screen time in this episode. Like, I think he gets less screen time in this episode than he has in the past 3. I think overall, over the course of this 20-minute episode, he got maybe 5 minutes of screen time. A majority of the episode is focused on the character of Metal Bat, which, if you look at the guy, and speaking of a series like Yu Hakusho, the guy's appearance is almost a complete ripoff of Kurama in some way. I mean, the only difference is his hairstyle is completely different, but his outfit is clearly shouting like almost complete ripoff of Kurama. Not Kurama. Kuwabara, the character who in that series is voiced by Christopher Sabat. I mean, look at this guy. Yeah, it screams like a complete ripoff of him. I mean, he looks like he's a student. I mean, yeah, he's carrying a weapon, though in the case of Kuwabara, it was an energy sword. This guy, it's a freaking metal baseball bat. And by the way, in case you all are curious though, do metal bats make the sounds it make in this episode when they hit stuff? Yes, that is all completely true. That is completely accurate. That sounds that baseball makes in real life, the whole banging sound it makes in this episode. He is assigned to protect executives from the Hero Association because, well, why the heck not? Well, because they're being targeted by generals, basically. For last week, excuse me. So, he sits with him at a revolving sushi restaurant, second series I've seen in a row that actually has it because I was just watching in case it closed. And they had a 2-parter involving a revolving sushi restaurant. Now, as far as I can tell, revolving restaurant like this type of restaurant does not really exist here at all. I'm sure it exists over in Japan, but I have been to a sushi restaurant. I'm not really a big fan of sushi. Yes, sorry to say, anybody who likes sushi, I just didn't really like it. I didn't like the taste of it. It's not for me. Yes, I had a chance to try sushi one of the last times I visited my brother in Virginia. That was one of the only time. It was the only time I ever tried sushi. I wanted to try out because it was one particular food I'd never tried before, and I didn't like it at all. It wasn't. It was okay. It was pretty disappointing from what I've heard how good it is. Sorry to say. Yeah, and of course the whole thing about taking the plate off. They get a fight about that, and then Metalbat's little sister calls up, and I've seen this woman. She's an adorable little girl. Calls him up, and basically he's like at a revolving sushi restaurant. Of course, he promised to go shopping, stuff like that. And the call is interrupted by a monster attack. Who attacks him? Who attacks this place? A couple of centipede monsters. I'm like, wow, a couple centipede monsters. Okay, so he's gonna ask him like, why are they here? And then he accidentally kills them both. The one of them basically induces a sleeping gas, which apparently he is somehow able to avoid that by taking his metal bat and banging his own head with it. And apparently he does not get concussion from this at all and causes his face to bleed, covered with blood. Yeah. Like, man, he's like, I'm not gonna pump like this in a long time. So he kills these two people instantly. He's like, oh crap, I forgot to ask them. And then their teacher shows up, a little slightly bigger creature, beats that, and then a much more gigantic creature, the size of, I'm trying to think, what was it? It was one of those creatures from one of the Godzilla movies. I don't know which one it was. It's this long freaking thing that's basically describing the show as a dragon level threat. Like, sweet Jesus, a dragon level threat. And Metalbat's basically trying to take on, he goes to his feeling. And that's when Genos intercedes and starts a fight with him. It's like, okay, I don't have time for you. It's like, oh, you're a super last class hero. I don't have time for you. And then he notices his murderous intent. So I'm like, oh, you're the hero hunter. I better take care of, like, he's like, I would take care of you now, but I'm kind of busy. And that's kind of how the episode ends. But there is something else I should talk about. There is a character who makes the anime debut in this episode. Shinru, I think is he's basically a martial artist. His appearance in this episode is an original. Yes, because in the manga, from when I looked up, apparently his first appearance is fighting Saitama in the World Martial Arts Tournament. As for why he's here, excuse me, I have no idea why they decided to show up a little earlier than usual. Yeah, it's the first time I can think of when it comes to series where they have a character here debut like in the show. I would say the second time I could think of. Probably, I think the second character I could think of who actually made a debut earlier than, let's just say, than they're supposed to. Also, the superhero dressed up like a dog, he pops up for a brief cameo. Yeah, he shows up for like one. He's mentioned in one little scene. You see him briefly at his hideout per se, which is on top of a giant pillar for a statue. That's his hideout. Okay. I'm thinking of, because of how way to describe it, I'm thinking, okay, high mountaintop, like, basically, I'm sure the guy's probably rich, but he probably has a thing for dressing up with dogs, and it's on top of a freaking pedestal. Okay. It's bizarre, but okay. Oh, and the image they used for his picture in here? Yeah, believe it or not, it's actually one of the covers of the One Punch Man graphic novels. I'm not kidding about that. It was actually, I think, the most recent book that came out that had his picture from that book on the friggin' cover. Yeah, and I think it was like volume like 15, which came out recently, and that was the image they chose for that particular cover. Yeah, this episode was a fantastic episode. I loved it. Yep. Yeah, I was going to reviews last night, but I just simply ran out of time last night. So yeah. I would think of doing more videos tonight because of how late it is, and I would end this review a little bit sooner, but I want to get through some comic books first. So yeah. So tomorrow, and this is what I'm hoping though, because it's Thursday, probably several reviews tomorrow. Like, oh my gosh, there'll be a whole boatload of reviews tomorrow if I get time to. Because tomorrow I do get up at 4 from work. I mean, tonight I only got off just a few hours ago. Mainly due to the fact that, well, my shift didn't end until 7 o'clock, and I have been working since 9 o'clock this morning. Yes, I worked a 10-hour shift today, though I did take a half hour for lunch. So roughly, I worked for 9.5 hours. Quite a long shift. And in case you're wondering, have I ever worked a 9 to 5 shift working at McDonald's? The answer is yes, I have. It's just okay. It's just a little bit longer than my usual shift, which is about 6-7 hours, anyways. Yeah. So that's it for this particular review. I was thinking of doing more, but I had no time to do it at all because of how late it is. I only put this video. I wanted to do this now because I wanted to at least put up one video today. Kind of like I did yesterday, but because the whole thing with this got interrupted, so that's the reason why that this is coming up a little late. Those of you curious though. So yeah, tomorrow hopefully I will do reviews of Fairy Tail, Black Clover, Ace Attorney, because they come out to the finale for that. A comic corner, and about, I'd say as of right now, about 3 movie reviews. Yeah, I was hoping to do one tonight, but I don't think I'll be able to get time to do it tonight. Because I kind of want to do other things, okay? But see you next few. Bye.